Yeah, good.
Hi, Rachel, how you doing? You're doing.
Hello, everyone. I'm calling to order this work session for the South Kingstown Town Council. It is budget work session number 3, Wednesday, March 4th, 2015, and the time is 6:34. First item on the agenda is the pledge. Please rise and join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If you picked up your agenda tonight, we're actually going to take it a little out of order since we have a number of human service agencies and outside groups that the town council sees fit to fund each year. We're going to have people who represent those organizations come to the microphone, state their name and the organization they represent, tell us a little bit about what they're doing. I'm going to go through the list of organizations the way that they're presented in the budget document. That's the fair way. I don't expect all the organizations to be present tonight, but if you're here, please come up and let us know what you're doing. First on our list is the South Shore Center. Or before we get to that, Steve, do you want to talk a little bit about why the town does this?
No.
No.
In starting out, I would say that what we have done in terms of the budget development is to place a placeholder for each of the agencies that received funding in the current year. From an administration perspective, it's not our place to recommend revisions in what the contribution levels will be. So any of the agencies that received funding in the 14-15 year are in at the same dollar amounts. One agency did request an increase over the current year appropriation. I'm sure that Washington County Coalition for Children will be here this evening to talk about that specific request. The other 12 agencies that receive this type of public support from the council all are in at the amounts that had been they had been advised that we would not increase that, and if there was going to be increases, they would need to have that funneled through the council and get the approvals at that level. So with that, I would suggest that we go forward with the agencies making comments.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to try to keep everybody to 5 minutes. I know that's only a little bit of time for some of the work that these agencies are doing, but try to keep it to that. Thank you. So first on our list is the South Shore Center. Is any?
Hi, and thank you. I'm Cheryl Watson. I manage the emergency services and outpatient departments at South Shore. Your community mental health center covering all of Washington County from Westerly to North Kingstown and parts west. Serving children ages 4 or 5 through adults in our senior population in both community and office-based care, with a full spectrum of services from office-based services to home-based services for children and adolescents, to more intensive wraparound services for adults in the community with severe and persistent mental illness. Questions for me about what's happening clinically at South Shore? What I should say is that a little over a year ago, all of our funding from the state of Rhode Island ended, as it did for all of the community mental health centers in the state. So when it comes to serving those who are either uninsured or underinsured, the monies that come to us from the council and from the town are important and appreciated.
Thank you.
Maybe I saved someone else 2 minutes.
All right, thank you so much for your work. Next on our list is Home and Hospice Care of Rhode Island. Is anybody present from that group? All right. Then we have VNS Home Health Services. And the Thunder Mist Health Center.
Hi, good evening. My name is Nicole Quindazzi, and I represent Thunder Mist Health Center. I'm the Associate Vice President of Operations. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak. I wanted to let you know that Thunder Mist has been in this community since 1972. We opened as the Health Center of South County, and then in 2002, the Health Center merged with Thunder Mist, which also has locations in West Warwick and Woonsocket. So we're spread out across the state. So we're putting in a new building. I know some people have been by to see it. We're really excited. We're going to be moving our entire operation into the new facility this month. So really exciting. We'll have 20,000 square feet. It's a federally funded grant that we received as a federally qualified community health center is paying for the bulk of it. The reason Thunder Mist is here is that we provide a lot of services to folks from this community, from South Kingstown, who are underinsured or uninsured, and the funding that we're requesting is to help support the care for those patients. We're a full-service primary care center, so we provide medical service, dental services, behavioral health, social services, tobacco cessation. We have a WIC program. We have nutritionists, so we have a wide variety of services. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I did get to take a tour of the new facility, and I mean, wasn't quite done, of course, when I went through, but it looks like it's going to be a really amazing center, and some new opportunities for the public to get engaged there. Can you talk a little bit about the community room?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. We actually designed the new space with the community's needs in mind, so we've put in a large community room that we are going to make available to groups in the community needing meeting space. It's a nice big room with audiovisual equipment, and we have a test kitchen that we've put in. So with that, we'll be able to do group cooking classes for different patient populations. For instance, one of our physicians runs a diabetic group. Sometimes they do some cooking. They talk about healthy foods. Well, now they'll be able to actually bring in a chef and demonstrate some healthy food preparation. So we're really excited about that community space and getting the word out to everyone that it's available. Thanks.
Thunder Mist? Great. Well, thank you for all your work.
Thank you for your attention and your consideration.
Next on our list, we have the Phoenix House. And then the Johnny Cake Center of Peacedale.
Hi, good evening. I'm Lisa Wright, the Deputy Director of the Johnny Cake Center of Peacedale, and I'm joined tonight by Catherine Rochette, the President of our Board of Directors. On behalf of all the residents of South Kingstown that we serve, I really want to thank the town so much for its support. It's really been great. I brought along a copy of our most recent newsletter, and I'll leave this off for you all when I go. I wanted to say that we're very pleased to report we've been able to continue to provide everyone who comes to us for help with food. We fed an average of about 730 people a month last year and provided enough food for 205,324 meals. This coming year, we've increased our budget for food, to purchase food by $20,000, so we've increased it to $100,000. Part of that is to do with the continued level of need, but the other thing is that we're trying to increase the amount of healthy food that we distribute. So we've expanded our Healthy Harvest program, which used to run from July to October, to be a year-round program, and we're having fresh fruit and vegetable in the food pantry all year round. Another big development for us is that we're opening a new store. On Saturday, we're having the grand opening of Furniture That Feeds. It's just down the street from us at 1207 Kingstown Road. So we invite you all to come and visit, stop in. It's going to be a lot of fun for that, and it'll help hopefully increase the earned income we get from store sales. And then we're also in the process of doing a major update of our client database. It's going to be probably about a year-long process to do, but we're hoping in the long run this will really be great. It'll help automate our system, so we'll be able to tell much quicker how many people are coming in and what they're using for services. So anyhow, finally, just want to express our support, thanks for the support that you guys give us. It really is tremendous. And I don't know if you had any questions about...
Are you going to have a grand opening on Saturday?
On Saturday, yes.
What time is it at?
I believe it opens at 9, so we'll be going 9 to 3, the same hours as our regular store. So, yeah, come on by.
How are you making out with the restaurant that you're going to open?
The Hope Cafe, it's
yeah.
still in process. We have a committee that's working on it. It's sort of one of those sort of cart before horse things, you know, trying to find the location before we get the works going. But we're still doing fundraising for it. We've got a very active group of people that are working on that. Christina Rose, is one of our board members, is chairing the committee for it. So
That's great. It's a good idea. Yeah.
anything else?
So much.
Thank you, guys.
Is there anyone in the audience from Kane Child Development Center? How about the South County Community Action? And the Welcome House, South County?
Before Ken gets started, I just wanted to mention that many of the agencies that aren't here this evening, they have provided us with the full applications, and we had indicated to them that if they wanted to provide additional information, that they should be here this evening. So it should not be construed as a disrespect that they're not here.
Definitely.
With that, I'm glad to be here because we do appreciate the opportunity to give quick updates to the council. Kenny Burke, Chair of the Board of Directors for Welcome House South County. This will be the last time I appear before you. I'm actually here tonight with Mr. Joseph Zoybek. He's our new Executive Director for Welcome House. We have done, as many of you know, about 15,000 bed nights of service at our facilities, about 20,000 meals served. We are a homeless shelter, soup kitchen. We provide case management and other basic needs services to vulnerable folks in our community. And our community extends throughout South County, also extends pretty far, all the way up to towards Pawtucket. We are in the midst of several renovation projects funded through CDBG programs. We had a very successful winter fundraiser. Many of you attended. We appreciate your support. And once again, we very much appreciate consideration for this particular human services grant. It goes directly towards funding for staff. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Kenny, how's the bicycle program going?
Well, it's been a heck of a winter, so I can tell you that we have advertised for the bicycle racks. So I've been working with DEM and Department of Transportation to get our specifications squared away. It was advertised in this past week's South County Independent. The schedule would be to open bids within a month, award the project. Design fabrication, I'm actually going to go before the Recreation Commission to seek their endorsement, as well as potential places for those bike racks in Peacedale. Theoretically, installing bike racks sometime in July. The rest of the bike program, depending on the weather, for tomorrow night we have another Healthy Places by Design bike and walk subcommittee meeting. I've been talking with Dan Dunn about doing another bike giveaway and another person at the Greater Providence YMCA in terms of how to make our bike program a sustainable program. We're really looking for a few more local champions to help make it sustainable. So I would think a bike giveaway would probably be in line for the fall.
In the garage that you own on Church Street, right?
Yes.
Are you going to renovate that?
We had plans to do that, Councilwoman, and our bids came in a little bit higher than expected. We had a limited pot of money from CDBG funding, we diverted all that funding towards the housing. We didn't have any disposable funding to attend to that. And as you know, we've instead used some of the sheds at the shelter in the administrative building site on North Road. So that's a placeholder right now, and like I said, with Joe's leadership as the new executive director, we'll kind of work through those details on an ongoing basis.
You're not leaving altogether, are you?
No, I'm very happy to have Joe here. I really can't express how happy I am that he is here. And I do want to spend a little more time on some of these niche projects that I started to fulfill them. No, I'm South Kingstown resident. I'm here.
Well, thank you for all you've done for Welcome House. You've really turned it around.
Oh, it took quite a bit of effort from a lot of people, and,
Yes.
yeah, council included.
But you were
Thank
at the helm for a while there.
Thank you.
Can you give the council some idea in terms of, I'm not sure everybody is fully aware of Welcome House in terms of the supportive housing that you have, in addition to the one facility. Talk about the Section 8 units that are also in the community, which is where a lot of the CDBG funding is required to go.
Yes, Mr. Alfred, absolutely. So our shelter, again, is at 8 North Road, and we're rated at about 17 bodies in that facility. 3 of them are designated for transitional. We have the admin building at the same campus, if you will, 22 North Road. But we've got 5 other properties scattered throughout Peacedale, and in total it's about 16 units, if you will. There are several multifamily properties. And it's a mix of Neighborhood Opportunities Program, home funding, Section 8 housing that we also work with South Kingstown Housing Authority for some vouchers, some project-based vouchers. So we're at capacity. Those units are always full. And I've been happy to work with the South Kingstown Affordable Housing Collaborative to look at creative ways to actually help build our housing stock, which is, as everybody knows, quite a challenge. So the theory is we work with folks, get them off the street, get them through the shelter, get them into transitional and then permanent supported housing solutions, which may or may not be something that we own. It could be any other affordable housing program anywhere in the state, actually.
One of the reasons I wanted to bring that up is that this is one of the operations that we also have a payment in lieu of taxes. So the payment in lieu of taxes is based on the number of residential units and then because of, service requirements on the community. So essentially, we're providing about $8,000 in funding, and they're paying property taxes or payment in lieu of the property taxes of roughly the same dollar amount. So it really nets to about zero, but the number of units is what's important in terms of that pilot agreement that council will be asked to address on a yearly basis, usually in June.
And Steve, do those units count towards our affordable housing units?
I'm not sure how the units are registered, if they're registered with a requirement for affordable housing for a 30-year period, then there would be.
Yeah, the town manager is correct. We do have restrictions on those properties, so they do count towards the town's housing stock goal.
Good.
Any other questions? Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you.
And welcome, Joe, to the committee. Thank you. Next, we have the Domestic Violence Resource Center and the Washington County Coalition for Children.
That's me. Hi, I'm Susan Orpin. I'm coordinator of the Washington County Coalition for Children. And our mission is to be a voice that advocates for the health and well-being of children and families in Washington County, serving as catalyst and facilitator for improved services. And we do that in a number of wonderful ways. We track data regarding kids and families in Washington County. We've been doing that for the last 15 years. And we serve as the round table, bringing partners together to come up with solutions to address the problems that are beyond the scope of any one agency in town. And so we take on really tough issues like children's mental health and bullying. And we are totally volunteer-driven, except for me. I work part-time as the coordinator. And we get most of our funding from grants and donations and memberships. You can be a member of the coalition as an individual by paying $10 a year. Organizations join and pay $100 a year. We have some business members at $150, but every dollar counts. We often have to provide proof that we have local support when we are applying for state grants, and I've had to make copies of checks and send them up to the state to prove that I have this local match. We were also very responsible for obtaining a federal grant that we're very proud of for implementing youth mental health first aid. We brought together the 8 school districts in southern Rhode Island and the South Kingstown Police Department to collaborate on that grant. We were one of 100 in the nation chosen, and we'll be training over 500 people in Washington County about the signs and symptoms to be aware of in our youth and how to connect them with services. So to be that first responder and provide first aid just like you would if someone was having a heart attack and you provide CPR, you do the same thing, only you know what to do when someone's in a mental health crisis. So that's the kind of thing we do. We can't do it without support. We've been very pleased that the towns have supported us. We ask for $1,000 a year. We get that from the town of Westerly. We get some from other towns as well. And while I'm very grateful, I hope that you'll support us at the level that we need. Just like the Washington County Regional Planning Council, your investment in us, allows us to leverage and partner with other folks in the region and make a difference. So that's about us. Any questions?
How many clients do you serve in South Kingstown?
So that's where we're different. So we're not an agency. We're not like I can't give you numbers like that. So our mission is to serve all kids in Washington County. So every kid in South Kingstown is potentially someone we would serve because we're working on policy, advocacy. We're putting programs in place that support all kids in the region. And so, unfortunately, I think when we get put in a pot where we're competing for dollars like against the Johnny Cake and against Welcome House, it's easy to say this isn't as important as those other things, and I think that's one of the challenges. We're sort of in the category with the Washington County Regional Planning Council or the South Kingstown Partnership for Prevention, where you're working at this larger level, not direct service.
So you never have like a face-to-face client, like where you said you were coordinating services for individuals, some of the toughest cases. So you can't identify, you don't keep data?
It's not like that. So we take on issues
That's what you
like,
said, though.
I'm sorry, I guess I didn't speak clearly enough. So we take on really tough issues like children's mental health. And how we take that on is by organizing training sessions for doctors, by implementing an emotional literacy program in our schools. We do it in second grades across Washington County. We take on bullying by helping schools implement evidence-based bullying prevention programs, organizing things like Chalk It Up Against Bullying, if you were in downtown and you saw those messages out there, in working with early care and education sites on a program called planting the seeds of kindness, in working with coaches and camp programs to teach them how to deal with bullying. So we're tackling the really tough issues and mobilizing folks in our community to address them while we may not be individually providing services, because as I said, I'm the only staff person. I work part-time and we have all these volunteers, but we're addressing these issues that way.
But when you say you're working with second grades throughout
Yes.
Washington County, so are you working with second grades in South Kingstown?
Yes, we are. We are. And
trying
so
to get a feel for it.
yes,
Do
so
you
we
come
have
into South
so we
Kingstown?
have
Well,
we have
hold on a second.
ambassadors that work in the schools.
Let me just speak for a second. I'm just trying to figure out how what you do relates to the residents of South Kingstown, the children of South Kingstown, and their needs. And I don't think that's an inappropriate question.
No,
Especially in
no.
light that you're looking for, more assistance. So
No, not at all. I didn't mean to be disrespectful.
No, I just want to, we can't both talk at the same time. So I just want to understand how what you do translates in our community. Certainly, I care about all of Washington County, that's great, but as a town council person, thinking about dollars and cents and raising taxes or whatever, all of this causes, we have to know how it relates to our residents.
You're absolutely right. And I'm sorry.
I might have an answer for you. We have some stats here. The Coalition for Children serves a total of 25,000 plus clients, and SK residents of 5,400.
Where did you get that one?
This was on the top of our... we fund about 11% compared to the other towns, and they serve 21% of our town.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I certainly loved the Chalk It Up this year. I've tried to go.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful day to walk down Main Street and see all those messages.
It is a great event, and it's very powerful. Yeah, thank you.
Next, we have the Education Exchange.
Good evening, Office of the Town Manager, distinguished members of the Town Council, and members of our community. Let me start by saying my name is Cameron Ennis, and I represent the Education Exchange, and what a wonderful community we live in. And I know this because I work with a lot of these agencies, and while I don't know many of you, you have a long-standing relationship with the organization that I represent. So long, in fact, that the ties between the Education Exchange and the town of South Kingstown are longer than I am in years. But despite my youth, I come from deep generational roots, and I'm not ashamed, and in fact proud to be a Swamp Yankee. It's because my grandparents instilled in me values of caring for your community and kicking back to those in need. And that's precisely what we do at the Education Exchange. We have programs for GED, to obtain your GED. We have ALP, which is an alternative learning plan for teenagers who go to South Kingstown High School and are between truancy court and not succeeding in high school. We have a transition to college program for those who aren't ready to go from high school to college. It's kind of a holding hand process where you save your Pell Grant, and by coming to us, we prepare you for the AccuPlacer, so you don't get stuck in remedial classes at CCRI. So you save your time and your Pell Grant on tuition there, and when you get to CCRI, you're off and running, no remedial classes. We also have a national external diploma. For people 21 and older, it's portfolio-based, who aren't accustomed to computer-based tests. Not that anyone is these days, really, but we're getting there. We have one of the only Pearson VUE testing centers in the state, and the only one in South County. We teach English as a second language, or English for speakers of another language, which is what it's called now. But aside from that, we do a lot of job readiness, and what that is how to get a job and how to maintain a job. So we enable those to search, through databases, using the governor's workforce board or Craigslist or whatever resources are at hand, and we help you get a job. In fact, we have a class on Friday, and it's free, and we advertise all the time, and you can just walk through our door, and we'll help you. We have something, what I like to call the Peacedale Circle. So if you need shelter, you go to the Welcome House. If you need some job skills, you come to the Education Exchange, and then we'll send you over to the Johnny Cake to get something to wear for your interview. And you're back on your feet in no time. It's fantastic. I love it. Besides that, we're funded by the Department of Education predominantly. We have community block grants. We have tuition for our certification programs. So we do have some formal certification. You can be teacher assistant certification. That has the highest job placement of all of our certification programs. It's like 99% job placement. Granted, teacher assistants don't make as much as, engineers. It's slightly above minimum wage, but it's great for working moms and things like that. We just rolled out this past year a QuickBooks class, Introduction to QuickBooks, great job skill. Every small business uses it. In April, we'll be rolling out ServSafe certification programs. So for those of you who don't know, it's for any hospitality position. So you get your food handler certification, your alcohol serving certification, your kitchen manager certification. And I know everyone's aware that hospitality is the booming industry in South County. So we think for minimal education, background education, and minimal amount of hours, you can walk out of there with a job credential. So we're really excited about that. And I'm here tonight because I wanted to say thank you for supporting us in the past and supporting us in the future. And I thought it was a good idea to come down and not only meet you, but to say thank you as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
If I wanted to walk through your doors, where would I go?
Oh, we are in the Lily Pads complex, across the street from the Welcome House. So come on in and take a left. Come talk to me anytime. Tell you what's going on. Sure.
You had talked about certifications, like tip certifications or meal certifications, which, as everybody knows, as you said, the hospitality industry is hugely important, particularly coming to the summer. When are you anticipated to start those?
Well, we applied for some grants. They haven't come through. So we're tapping the line of credit and investing in it, April. They're coming in April.
I think it's a great idea because the summer's coming and
Summer's coming, and that put me through college. I don't know about anyone else in here, but probably. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Now, on to our list of outside agencies. Sorry. Easter Seals of Rhode Island, if they are present.
Hello and good evening. Thank you so much for letting us present to you tonight. On behalf of the 557 families that we serve, our board of directors, and our dedicated staff, we thank you for the gift that was made last year. We work with children from birth to 21 that have special needs and disabilities, primarily in South County, although we do expand. We do drive north of the towers. And your gift was marked for children living in South Kingstown that receive services through our pediatric outpatient program that are underinsured or uninsured. So very similar to South Shore Center and Thunder Mist, we do see a predominantly large number of children, about 44% in outpatient, and of those people, of those families, 15 one-hour therapy sessions were paid for by the town. We really appreciate the support that the town gives us. We work and recognize the good works of many of these other agencies, and as part of the Rotary of Wakefield, and so we certainly know that we're in very good keeping with the rest of these human service agencies. I have some updated newsletters and our annual report, as well as an invitation to come to our Visual Learners Open House. So we have, through some grants, created a special classroom, and it's in our early intervention program, and this classroom is to address the issues for 2 to 3-year-olds that will, and most likely, be diagnosed with autism or who are visual learners. So this addresses an unmet need in the community. It allows families living in South Kingstown to not have to drive north of the towers to go to another agency in Providence or Hasbro. And that is the basis of what we do. We look at the unmet need in the community. If the community will support us, we will gladly serve the need. Our goal, it's a medical model, pediatric outpatient. We have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So we see children come in, achieve the goals, and leave. And that's the same as an early intervention. We only treat kids up to 3 years old, and then they move on to the school system. And if we can help them, that's what we do. Does anybody have any questions? All right, great. So I'm going to leave you these packets. Please consider we invite the entire community to come to our open house. I'll be sending out press releases, and again, we thank you for your support.
Thank you. Yes, now we will move on to outside agencies, the first being the League of Cities and Towns.
The cities and towns really comes through the manager's office. It acts as a lobby on behalf of the communities. And in fact, as I referenced in the narrative, the fees have not increased since 1998. I think it's well worth the expenditure on an annual basis for them to continue to watch over our interests and to make us aware of legislation that could have deleterious effects on the community.
And they run workshops for municipal...
yes, they have an annual, there's an annual conference, and at that annual conference there's a series of different programs for training. They also provide testimony at the General Assembly level.
Great. Then we have next our celebration funding help. Do you want to...
Yeah, there's 3 parades in town that the town makes a contribution to. I think it needs to be clear that the parades are not town parades, but they're the private organizations that are sponsoring the parades. What we do at the municipal level through the recreation department is to provide staff support as well as the contribution as noted here for the $7,000. That amount hasn't changed in several years. The third item is the fire company donations. The town has traditionally provided $3,600 or $400 per company, just as a statement of thanks for the volunteerism that they exhibit on a day-to-day basis. The first organization that has submitted a funding request is Narrow River Preservation. I wanted to note that we have provided them with a $500 contribution in past years. We had not seen a request. The request finally came in about a week and a half ago asking for $1,000. The money that they obtain from the town is used to offset some of the cost of the water quality testing that Narrow River performs on the Pettisquamscot. So this year's letter indicates that testing costs about $1,000, of which they would like to have the full $1,000. But again, funding level in the past has been $500.
Did the price of the testing program go up, or is this...
No, I think that that's about the same price that it's been along the way. I just think it's their request this year was for that type of an increase.
Okay. Next is the Southern Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for having us all here tonight and listening to our spiels about what we care about. My name is Elizabeth Berman. I'm the Executive Director of the Southern Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce. And I would like to start by saying thank you for the support that we've received from the town for years and years and years. We've always been very lucky that we've had such a great relationship with the town of South Kingstown, and I look forward to continuing that relationship. As a Chamber of Commerce, we support and enhance the business community of Southern Rhode Island, and we create opportunities for growth and development of our member businesses. Just looking at the council now, you're either members or have participated in some of our events, so I know you are familiar with the Chamber. What we do with the donation that we get from the town is a few different things. First, it goes towards our holiday banner program, which goes up on 108 from Old Mountain Lanes to Rody Joe's, over on Old Tower Hill Road, and then also in Peacedale. So that money goes towards the maintenance, the cleaning, the installation of those banners. It also goes towards extending our normal hours in the summer to help all of the tourists that we want to keep here in South Kingstown spending all their money. So it helps us open the chamber over the summer, over the weekend, with that increased traffic. It also helps to run our gift certificate program, which is a great way to keep money here locally back into our business community. Currently, we have around $17,000 of gift certificates out in the community. Around 57% of our membership comes from South Kingstown, so most of that money is going to be spent right here. And again, I know that you guys are familiar with the Chamber, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Liz, any questions? Now, in this year, I think it went from a request of 9,000 to 12,000. Is that correct?
We did request 12,000 last year as well. We were given 9,000, which was fantastic. Got to reach for the stars, you know. So.
No harm in asking.
Exactly.
If we were to give you your dreams and the extra 3,000, do you have a program that you know the 3,000 would go towards, or is that just...
Again, it would go towards some of the programs that we already run, updating some of those things, and being able to be open even more over the summer. Our summer traffic increases drastically, as I'm sure you all know. So being able to help the tourists on the weekends is really a great benefit to not only our members, but to South Kingstown as a whole. So that it would go towards that. Thank you.
That brings us to the Peacedale Neighborhood Revitalization Initiative.
Oh. Well, I was really nervous about public speaking when I got here, but since the crowd has thinned considerably, I think I can handle it. I'm Therese Martin, fairly new president of the Peacedale Neighborhood Revitalization, which is sort of a group that is experiencing its own revitalization in the last year and going forward. So thank you for having me here. We have several hopeful projects on the horizon, and we did increase our request this year significantly. I actually wasn't with the group last year when we made our request. Specifically, we've requested the $10,000 to help offset a program that we think is a great opportunity for Peacedale. RIPDOT has a program called TransArt, where they have a covered bus shelter, an artistic covered bus shelter opportunity. They provide 80% of funding, up to a $50,000 total cost. So the maximum that PDNRI as an applicant would need to come up with is the $10,000. We do have applications, not submitted, but we're working on application for private funding for grant money. I think we're going to shoot for as much, obviously as much as we can, so that the town isn't responsible for all that. But also, we've spoken with Teresa Tanzi, who is very optimistic about the chance of legislative grant money contributing to the project as well. So we're looking at High Street, maybe in the area of Patsy's Hall, the fire station somewhere in there. So if that doesn't happen, we do have several other projects that, if it's otherwise funded, or if the plan, it doesn't work out at all, we do have several other projects that we think we could put that money to good use.
Any questions from the council?
Just a general comment. One of the things that's going to be important from a public safety perspective is if a bus shelter is going to be located, that the police department be involved with the siting. One of the issues that we've had major loitering problems with is the corner for Fournier Estates. I don't think once the Housing Authority and the police have dealt with the issue there, that if we get a bus shelter in too close a proximity to that area, we may end up running into similar problems that we had, particularly during the summer months. So I would certainly think it's a great idea to attempt to get some type of an ornamental bus shelter, particularly on Route 66, because that is a very well-traveled bus route. But my concern is that we need to make sure that we are in partnership with the town in terms of where that siting would occur, so that it works well for everyone.
Yeah, the application process does include quite a bit of input on our end, and the town would certainly have a part in that as far as design, specific requirements. There's a lot of information on RIPTA's Transart site about how to make the seats comfortable enough for somebody to wait for a stop, but not anything you could lie on or that you would want to sit on for too long. They're aware that that's loitering is a problem all around, and we would definitely take that into consideration.
I just want to make sure that we're all in the same vein, attempting to provide for the services for the folks that are looking to use the bus, but other than that, it's not a place where loitering would occur.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, thank you for the work of the organization. I think Peacedale's looking as good as it's looked in quite a while. I know that you have something to do with that, and I do hope that we can get a nice bus shelter on that route. I think there's a lot of traffic on it. So thank you.
Thank you.
The Washington County Regional Planning Commission is next on our list.
Thank you very much, members of the council, for this opportunity. You get two for the price of one tonight. I'm Jeff Broadhead, Executive Director of Washington County Regional Planning, and with me is Tom Gentz. Tom is our new board president. One of your members, Ella Whaley, was our president the last 2 years, and Tom was serving as secretary and then treasurer and has stepped up to take on the presidency, and we're really, really glad. The entire staff is happy. That's me. So the Planning Council was formed by South Kingstown and its neighbor towns in the early 90s to address those kind of issues that cross town boundaries. We don't provide direct services to citizens, but we serve to the municipalities across Washington County, including South Kingstown. And we work on a project basis. We don't staff up to do things. We work with whoever the stakeholders are in that particular project. Some of the ones that have had an impact on this town over the years, and the first two were before I was here, so I can't claim any credit whatsoever for them. But it was a rewriting of the real estate conveyance tax, which has brought a lot of money into all of the towns in South County, as well as the rest of the state. And there was some police reserves issues that we did, which helped, I believe, this town and some of the others. Since I've been here, we've worked primarily on energy issues, both individually with buildings, and worked in 146 buildings across the county, and then turned our attention to streetlights, which was identified as an overcharge for all of the towns when we were looking at the energy usage in all of the buildings. And it surprised me very much at how big the overcharge was. When we were working on it and began the analysis, we thought it was about a $2 million problem statewide. And that was enough to get our attention and for our board to authorize me to draft legislation and attempt to get the legislation passed. By the time we finished the legislation, which did pass, it turned out that the problem, and this is from National Grid's own testimony, their sworn testimony, is that, well, your streetlights bill is in two parts. About a third of it is for power. That's fair. It's paid per kilowatt hour. The other two-thirds is for facilities charge or maintenance. And for that, statewide, you pay about $90 per light. Now, it doesn't cost $90 to take care of a light bulb for a year. And so that's why we thought the number might be a little outrageous. According to National Grid's sworn testimony, they charge the municipalities in the state $10.2 million to manage the streetlights. That's just the facilities charge. Their expenses, and National Grid doesn't do anything cheap, their expenses for that is $2.1 million. So they're making an $8.1 million profit on the streetlights on the backs of all of the communities in the state and your taxpayers. So we have been, while we're not a big advocate as the League is at the legislature, we have become an advocate at the Public Utilities Commission where nobody has been watching what goes on. And and Tom is going to address this more. But I just want to address South Kingstown's impact for streetlights. We're not asking for any action whatsoever on streetlights tonight. We'd like you to pay your dues, as all the other towns in the state. And our dues are set by our board at $6,000 for the larger towns and $3,000 for the smaller towns. I will simply say that when I first started, one of our board members, who was a town council member in South Kingstown, asked me to do a reevaluation of the dues, take the number the same, but divide it up by population. And when I told him that meant South Kingstown dues would be $9,000 instead of $6,000, he said, well, forget it, don't ever bring that back again. So I haven't ever brought it back again, nor am I bringing it back tonight. But your streetlight savings, should you choose to do it, would be about $70,000 a year. It's a big number. It's a big number for any town. And so we're hoping to be bringing to your town manager first. If he likes it, then bring it to your council in the next 2 months with a real proposal for South Kingstown. And I probably used my whole 5 minutes, but if you be kind enough to use some of the other minutes that weren't used earlier, and have Tom. Tom is the president of your neighboring Charlestown's Town Council as well as our board.
Welcome, Tom.
Thank you very much for having us tonight. We appreciate your contribution to Washington County Regional Planning Council. I'm here just simply to talk about two benefits that Washington County brings to your council. One is the ability for all of the town councils to meet and to discuss things that are important to each of our towns within South County, and we do that on a monthly basis. And the second thing is to talk about advocacy for streetlights. The value there to you is that the money that you're going to save, if you decide to move forward, depending on whether you go with us or not, it doesn't matter in terms of the maintenance costs that you'll save. And then if you decide to convert to LED lights, then you'll save about 60% of the power costs. But I'm also here to talk about the advocacy at the state level. And the reason why I say that is that overall on the state level, we can save about $7 million if cities and towns buy their streetlights. And that's a significant contribution to a tax base in this time of need when, you know, we're all facing budget concerns. So I just wanted to thank you again for your time. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer it. But we appreciate your support and look forward to continue to work with you. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question, if you don't mind. In terms of if we were, I know we've talked about PRISM a little bit, but if we were to make this transitional change, explain to me how cost-effective it's going to be, because I don't think we'd break even at first, because there would be a huge cost involved in, first of all, taking over the responsibility, and second of all, changing over the lighting, unless we have grant funding for that, or the expenditure part of it.
Okay, the steps are analyze what the details are of each municipality. We haven't done that in a detail yet for South Kingstown. Then you purchase the existing streetlights from National Grid. The legislation that we wrote defines that as being the original cost less depreciation. So that brings the cost down to a very much of a reasonable amount statewide. Then you would do any upgrades that you wanted to do. So in terms of directly with your question, is the preliminary estimates for South Kingstown is that you're currently paying in the range of $185,000 a year for streetlights. That's your total bill for streetlights for power, delivery, and these fixture charges. Your cost to purchase the lights from Grid, their estimate is, I believe, $79,000. So yes, you would have to pay that. Your savings, your first year savings, just on maintenance alone, are $70,000. So you'd have maybe a 13, 14-month payback period. Now, some towns are choosing to enter into a tax-exempt municipal lease for the purchase and the LED light conversion. LED lights are expensive. You'd have a multi-year payback for those. That's not in the figures right here. Your savings would be greater, but you'd have a couple of years where you're paying debt. But some towns are choosing to fold the purchase price into that. So until we have final numbers, I can't tell you whether your payback would be within the first year or go into the second year. And it also, obviously, depending on when it happens in relation to your fiscal year, the whole purchase price would come due when you bought the lights, but the savings may generate over, my projections are over a 12-month period, which may or may not be the same fiscal year as what we're asking. I understand those complexities. That would be shown in the preliminary, the formal preliminary street lighting plan that we prepare. The maintenance things that you take on, you're currently paying, on average, $94 per street light per year just for maintenance. Our estimate of our prices is going to be in the low 20s. In fact, yours, because you're not probably subject to the high-level control system, would probably be just below $20 a year, where you're currently paying $94. So the savings are pretty high. But there are costs to get there, and I have not projected those directly for you yet. We will do it when we do the formal analysis. Does that address your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Can I say something?
Sure.
So the more cities and towns that we bring into the program, the cheaper the maintenance costs are going to be for all the cities and towns, because we're a not-for-profit organization. We're a 501c3. We're just there to support the cities and towns in the state. So if there are 100,000 streetlights in the state. If we did 20,000 streetlights, it would be more expensive than 40,000, more expensive than 80,000. We're hoping to get 100,000, by the way, but the more we get, the cheaper the cost is for all the cities and towns and for our taxpayers, and I'm familiar with that as well as you are, so we appreciate.
Who anticipates the cities and towns to buy into this? I mean, have you had a commitment?
Well,
we have signed, the first commitment was letters of intent, which went to some towns. We didn't do that with South Kingstown because we asked for the new purchase price from National Grid as part of the Public Utilities Commission review process, so we didn't have to do that step with you. The letters of intent we got, and then we stopped, was for 70,000 of the state's 100,000 municipal streetlights. And I keep forgetting to look it up, but it's like 14 towns, but it includes Providence, Cranston, Warwick. It's got the big ones. We are just now beginning the process of bringing what's called the participation agreement. That's the formal contract to the towns. It's been approved in a couple of towns, and it will be coming to all. We're starting with the bigger ones and then moving down to the smaller ones because it's a statewide program. And as soon as we have the 3 largest towns, then we'll be able to go to bid for the maintenance and be able to prove the prices with real contracts before we go to all of the small towns. Whereas it would take a lot of small towns to get to the same bulk of streetlights to get the good price. So, just the one last point that I forgot to mention is that the PRISM is being operated similar to the League's REAP program in that it's a program under our 501c umbrella. So nobody had to create a separate corporation, separate nonprofit corporation for it, and all of the grants that the Planning Council has received have been able to support this. We're working now on a $75,000 Rhode Island Foundation grant and a $50,000 grant from the John Merck Fund. Those would not have been available if we did a separate entity. But PRISM will have its own board. Every town that signs on will get a seat on the board. It will not be overseen by the Planning Council's normal board of directors. This would be an executive board for this program only. They would review all the contracts, all the work, and I would staff it. But it's really controlled by the towns. Open book. There's no hidden cost here. It's not a private company coming in to do this. This is done by the towns for the towns. So, right? Thank you.
three largest towns that you anticipate are going to sign up, or?
Well, the three largest would be Providence, Cranston, and Warwick. We're working with, and we have letters of intent from them at this point, so we're just move into what's called the participation agreement, which would be the next phase. But I don't want to jinx anything by saying we have it, okay? But we're pretty confident, so.
Did you say sometime within the next 2 months you'd like to come sort of give a presentation to the council, or maybe?
Well, I always start with the administration, so I would sit down with Steve and anybody he wants there first, and John Chalk probably, and really work out how he would like to bring it to the council. That's his job, not my job. So, I mean, in a couple of towns, the council members have come to one of our meetings and then invited us, but that's not our normal way of working. But I'll talk about streetlights to anybody, anywhere, anytime, so. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that brings us to the South Kingstown Partnership for Prevention.
I actually don't think that anybody's going to be here tonight unless they had an event tonight. High school students.
No, we provide a $4,000 contribution. For the most part, the town is the custodian for those grants, and there is a local share that's necessary. That's $4,000. Heidi wasn't able to be here this evening.
She sent me an email.
And then we have the Wakefield Village Association.
Hi, my name is Jan Burtwell, and I'm here today representing the Wakefield Village Association. We're a group of merchants who meet once a month, and we get together to enhance the downtown community and also bring events to the area that benefit the residents, especially families. And these are some of the things that we are planning to do this year. We're once again doing the Festival Fete, Wakefield Art Festival, with the Festival Fete group. It brings a number of people to Wakefield who wouldn't normally come south of the towers, and they get to see the beautiful town, and it's really a fun day and really a family-friendly day. We're going to be doing the Halloween parade and festival again. That's always really a big hit with the kids. In the past 3 years, we've maintained the flower pots in front of the stores along Main Street, and the merchants have purchased their own flowers. This year, we'd like to purchase the flowers so that there's some unity to the how everything looks as people walk down Main Street. And of course, we'll be maintaining the pots as well. In the past, we've made sure that there are portable bathrooms available in the summer, and hopefully we won't have to do that this summer. And we've installed and maintained the Christmas lights that you see along Main Street. And most importantly, we've been, well, not most importantly, but maybe most excitingly, we've been working extensively with the Department of Transportation and National Grid to get the okay to install banners along Main Street. And we're going to be purchasing the banners to be installed, and we'll also maintain them. And they're going to be from the Old Larchwood to Prospect Avenue, up Robinson, Columbia, Woodruff, River, and High Streets. And we'll also, as I said, be responsible for the maintenance of those banners. And we also work in support of Ladies' Night. So we do a lot for a group of people that just get together once a month and think about, brainstorm ideas and what we can do to make the community and the downtown area really shine.
Questions? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have the Washington County Community Development Corp. And finally, Hera Gallery.
Hi, my name is Mary Trachtenberg. I'm the president of Hera Educational Foundation and Gallery. And I want to thank you for allowing us to request funding. I don't want to reiterate everything that I said in my long and lengthy letter, so I'm going to assume that you guys already know what our history is and that we have national recognition and that there's value of having art in our community. Ideally, we envision HARA growing to be a center for the visual arts in Southern Rhode Island, having a visiting artist program with studio spaces, more gallery space, community studio spaces, and bringing more artists, art lovers, bike riders. Excuse me, I'm not used to this. Can I get rid of that? Is that okay? Can you hear me? No? Okay. And beachgoers into our town to see and make and present innovative contemporary art, benefiting us, but all of our community members and local businesses in turn. We're part of the arts and culture economy, and I feel confident that HARA can help to grow this sector of our local economy, but in order to succeed, we do need support from the town. And I would love to answer any and all of your questions.
Do you have locations identified where you might expand? Is there room where you are in the mill building there?
There is no room right now for expansion in the mill building that we know of. And we've been in our space for about 3 years, and we've just signed a 5-year lease. And so I think growth is something that will come slowly to us. But I think that's something that we can, envision 5-10 years out.
Do you know, in particular, what programs the funding would be used for?
If we were to receive funding from the town, the first thing that we would use the money for would be for programming within the gallery and outside of the gallery. So, I think we talk a lot about public art, which is definitely something that would increase, I think, the desirability of people wanting to come into the town. And also, our programming, so our exhibitions that we have and speakers that we bring in. If we had more funding, we could do more things like poetry talks and film nights and, have just a more active kind of engagement with the public than we do now. I think development in terms of, working with a grant writer so that we can increase our funding exponentially would be something that we would really benefit from. And also extending our hours so that in the summer we could be open in the evening so that people could, go to Brickley's and get an ice cream and go out for dinner and walk down and, come check out the art in the town, because it really is a unique thing to have in a rural environment or a non-urban environment.
How do you currently, where do you get your funding from now?
So currently we're funded by our artist members who all pay dues. And we have our Friends of HARA, which are community members that provide donations. We get a small grant from the Rhode Island State Council for the Arts, and we have fundraising events. And so that's where the majority of our funding comes from. We do have some sales, but that we're a nonprofit educational foundation, so that's not really what the crux of our income is. When it happens, we're all really excited, but it's...
Are there going to be opportunities with the recently passed bond in November, the arts bond?
So we went to a RISCA meeting about the bond, and the opportunities, they're there, and we're trying to figure out if we will be able to apply for them. It's a matching grant, so we would need to have matching funds, which is, we run on a very small budget. And so any work that we would want to do to our space right now, we would have to get matching funds for. So that's, we would have to decide if it would be worth it to invest in the space that we're renting right now. If we own the space, it might be a little bit different. It's something that we're discussing as the board. We do have a few little upgrading projects that we would like to do, but it's an interesting grant, to say the least.
Well, thank you very much. If there's no other questions.
Thank you.
That concludes our list of outside agencies, and we can move back to the budget.
Page GF7 starts with the police department, and the detail starts on page N23. So, Chief, you want to come up? The department just in terms of, just a thumbnail on it, the department is made up of 53 sworn officers, which is inclusive of the chief, 8 dispatchers, and 10 civilians. So there's a total of 71 individuals that work within the department. I would note that we have established a complement for sworn officers at 55. We've maintained that at 53 over the last several years. That's been maintained through attrition without the refilling of those 2 positions. In this year's budget, we're looking at hiring a second SRO officer, which we have talked about. That would bring complement from the 53 existing up to 54. The cost of that SRO would be a shared position between the police department, through the general fund, and through the school department, with the school department paying approximately $41,000 of the overall cost. In the narrative, we talk about the cost being between $77,000 and $84,000. That's inclusive not just of salary and benefits, but also of training and equipment requirements, such as gun belts, service weapons, those types of things. So it's not a case where a police officer is going to be costing us $84,000. It will be a bit less than that. Once that's a senior officer, that price would be about right. The police department's also provided, as far as interaction with the school department, where during the current year, we established 3 additional crossing guard locations. All crossing guards are employed through the South Kingstown Police Department. Since they are dealing within the public right-of-way, they really need to have a public safety rather than a school background. Therefore, the school department reimburses the cost of those part-time employees, as well as the FICA costs associated with them and the workers' comp costs associated with them. We have those costs. So we're seeing 2 expanded programs here, one for the crossing guards, which really nets to zero for a general fund consideration, because we're getting the revenue reimbursed from the school. And secondly, half of the $80,000 cost for the SRO is also coming in as a reimbursement. But overall, the police department budget for next year is up by, I think it's about $343,000, which includes those 2 expanded programs. Salary-wise, like each of the contracts that we have in place, we're anticipating a 2% salary increase. We're also anticipating that the longevity payments, as I placed in the budget message, longevity within the police department is based on the percentage of salary based on age of service. All of that's included within this budget as well. We've talked about with each of the departments full costing. So here you have everything inclusive of the police vehicles. I wanted to also point out that with the police budget, there's also police revenues. We haven't spent a lot of time talking about the revenue statement with the budget, but with the police department revenues, we're looking at, Jack, do you have that number as far as the overall value? Now, one of the things that we're looking at too is that when you look at the vehicle acquisition cost, where you're seeing vehicle acquisitions of $163,000, during the current year, we're expecting to take in $125,000 from third-party users of the police vehicles. Anytime you see a construction site with police vehicles, those vendors are paying for the rental of the cruisers. So overall, of the 163 that you're being asked for, this year you're taking in 125 on rentals of some of the old units that we still maintain in the fleet. So, yes, this is an $8.3 million budget, about a little over $350,000 is coming in through other sources, whether it's through the school department or whether it's through fines that are levied, parking tickets that are levied, or the different rentals that are there. We also get a portion of speeding tickets from the State Communication Division. That number has not gone up in recent years, but a part of it comes down that I don't think we're going to see major increases in that funding source, because such a large portion of it is being kept by the state to be able to run that court system. If we went to a local municipal court, we still wouldn't be able to bring that in, because when the adjudication division was set up, it was set up and it precluded any future local town court from being able to assess and adjudicate any of the speeding tickets within that community. So that would have been a major revenue generator if, in fact, we were able to bring that into a local court system, but that won't be possible. I still think that in the long run, a municipal court may be something that we need to look at in the not-too-distant future to be able to deal with zoning issues, to deal with if there was a sidewalk ordinance, to deal with those types of issues that really aren't going to get any place in the district court. It's real difficult for the police department to bring claims or charges against somebody if it's going to go to the district court level, if in fact there's a disinterest on the court's part to be able to deal with things that they consider below the level of criminality. So that's something we may need to look forward to. One of the other things I wanted to talk about, and I've mentioned it in quite a few of the different departments, is the energy efficiency activities that we've had with each of our different programs. We were at a press conference on Monday of this week talking about South Kingstown's grant that we received for the program director for the police station. The overall savings at this point are about $20,000 a year on electric cost reductions, or about 125,000 hours in terms of the reduction of use of year in the building. And the other thing it's done is it's provided a better lighting environment for the facility. With that grant, because we were able to leverage the money with National Grid, we were also able to do the Peacedale office building, which we saw the energy savings on as well. So there's a lot of good things to report. We've also made major changes when we talk about the animal shelter. We're going to see energy savings there, not so much in the 16 year, but in the 16, 17 we're expecting based on the changes that we made in the HVAC system and going to various drives on that system that we're going to see considerable savings. So I want to make sure the council is aware of the efforts that we're trying to make. We are buying a Yugo for the chief to try to reduce his mileage expenses. It will have an insignia on it too. With that, Chief or Jackie.
I'd like to tell the council about a success story.
You have one?
Yes.
Well, the TASER program has been completed. Everybody has been trained, certified, and TASERs have been deployed. And the second day they were deployed, we had a unfortunate situation where a gentleman wanted to commit suicide by cop, which really with that term.
Suicide by what? I'm not.
He threatened the police officer with a knife, and he was yelling, "Kill me, shoot me, kill me, or I'll die." And he came at the police officer with a knife. The police officer deployed the taser and disabled him, took him to custody peacefully, and now he's in a medical facility being treated. Now, had the police officer not had the taser, what is the alternative?
Kill him.
Shoot.
Within 2 days of implementing the program, it was a great success, and a minimum amount of money. And so I just want to tell you,
Wow.
because Carol, you asked that.
Yes.
It's also a segue into the fact that the TASER is going to expand the budget by 40%. parts of cartridges that are necessary.
But you saved a life.
Right. $4,300, right?
This year.
And I think I'd like to also have you talk about accreditation.
Accreditation, we're moving forward. It's a long process, and it's kind of an expensive process. In the budget, there's some money for accreditation. We also get some money from the trust. We have an accreditation manager. We're moving forward with it. And I can't, at this point, I can't give you a timeline, but it's one of my priorities to be accredited.
Accreditation to us is going to be best management practices in a number of different areas, and uniformity with other police departments as far as how practices are, precedent pursuits, use of force, use of deadly force. It'll also look at all of our facilities and ensure that the facilities are properly outfitted, whether or not security cameras are properly placed, whether or not they're being monitored, whether the record keeping is proper, whether the IT system provides the necessary securities for the management of police records. So all of those things are part of the accreditation. And the great part of it is that if we can get all of the cities and towns to do that, then we can hopefully have better public safety, but we can also have better protection for the officers and also better safety for the general community. So it's an important program statewide. It's been one that the Chiefs Association and the Rhode Island Interlocal Trust, who provides the insurance for cities and towns, has been really fostering in terms of trying to come up with the dollars that are necessary. But Chief's right, there's a lot of things that are going to cost us money as we go along. We've spent quite a bit of money so far on some of the upgrades, but upgrades that were necessary within the department. I think it'll probably take us at least another year before we get to a level of seeing compliance with all of the requirements on accreditation, but we're making serious progress, and certainly it's something that I'm looking forward to because I think it'll be an accomplishment for the department and exemplify the type of services that we hope that they can provide on a day-to-day basis.
Chief, didn't the town get another safety ranking, one of the least violent crime, or didn't we recently get ranked number 1 or 2 or 3 in the state?
Last week, I was notified by a national group, and I can't recall the name, that South Kingstown was identified as the 3rd safest community in Rhode Island.
Right.
And we have this town. I'm happy about it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think if we actually put it on our website,
It's great. Yeah.
I saw it on Facebook. It was on Facebook, too.
this is the second time it happened, I think. Last time we were identified as the 27th safest community in the nation.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I credit the men and women of the police department. They're the ones on the street doing the job on a daily basis, 24 hours a day. And they're doing a hell of a job. And I appreciate it, I know the community also appreciate it. Can I just say something about the SRO program? I envisioned, when we talked about it in the narrative in my budget preparation, that the SRO will be assigned to the Curtis Corner of the school. But I envisioned that person to be like a utility SRO. If he or she is needed in any other school, either in the elementary schools or a bullying type situation, or any of the other middle schools, I can assign that police officer, that SRO, to go there, and he or she will not be restricted to one school. I think that's a problem.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Speaking personally, I would certainly appreciate that, because I looked at the budget, and I know it's a shared cost, and I know the proposal that came from the school committee and suggesting that it was at Curtis Corner, but then I look at how close the proximity of the police station is to that school. I'm not saying it's not a good use of resources by any stretch of the imagination, anything that we can do to help our youth, but I am very particularly pleased to see that there is flexibility to see where there is a need, they will go.
Absolute flexibility. I want to make it perfectly clear that the SRO is a certified police officer. He or she works for the police department. He or she works for me. If I assign he or she to another school, that's where they want to go.
It's good.
Provides for us during the summer months, we've got an additional officer. Hopefully that officer will be invited for us, that we can get in the general community on Main Street, which is something that we've been missing since we reduced the number of active people that we have, and we've still got a couple of OJ injury, on-the-job injury that we're paying full salaries for without any benefit. So for us to be able to meet our minimum staffing requirements, it really makes it difficult, particularly during the summer months with people on vacation, to be able to get the bike patrol in full operation. But hopefully, if we can get back to a full complement, we can get that program back active, because it was well received in the community, particularly Main Street.
Now,
SRO will work on patrol 69 days out of the calendar year, which is about 19% of the time. So those 69 days will be beneficial for the police department in the summertime and
so Chief, the SRO officer, is that a juvenile officer? Is that, or can it? Mm-hmm. But this SRO officer would not be considered that, a full-time juvenile detective? Mm. Mm-hmm. So then, when he's not working at the school, he could be detailed anywhere, really, he or she. Mm-hmm. Okay. But the bike path program, we did talk about this before, the possibility of the community officer, like, being in that room at the new intermodal station for some period of time. I don't know what the hours would be, but is that still a consideration?
It's potential.
Mm.
Until we get the facility finished, we've got to make some decisions on what we want to do with that room.
Mm.
I mean, that room is going to be a very nice potential office. How we use it,
Mm.
based on ideas that comes from the house, but if it becomes, I'm not sure if we ever want to use it as a police substation.
No.
It may be kind of something that provides police storage and probably bikes there. We've got also coming into the building. Why don't we move on as far as the animal control program and shelter? There's two different budgets that we provide you with. We separate the road program from the shelter program. The road program, I think the description is there as far as the number of complaints that we're dealing with a year, about 1,350 complaints. A lot of these are barking dog issues, and some of these are just not solvable. They are neighborhood issues.
We know them very well.
And we attempt to get them remediated between the parties themselves. But I think at this point, we've probably got two that we will never solve, one in West Kingston and one in the Kingston area. But it's just a case of a neighborhood issue at this point. But I think the road program, we're looking at about a $96,000 budget, which is about $1,500 over the current year budget. And really, those costs are directly related to personnel and the benefits associated. Our shelter manager, Emery, why don't you stand up and let the folks see our shelter manager if they haven't been over to see you yet.
Hello.
We're not talking about neutering this year.
Actually, that's the new state law.
Please don't stop.
You started it. So
Tell us about how things are going at the shelter.
Actually, it seems to be going basically about the same as it does every year. There are new state laws. The state law does state that we need to have the animals neutered prior to departure. That has its pros and its cons. And the pro part is, of course, that it benefits the animal and the new adoptive owner. The con part is it dumps all the responsibility on us, and the animals have to also stay longer. And that's a little bit hard. And I think it's also a little taxing on the animals because, you know, it adds to what we need to do to make it happen. And we also need to try to still maintain affordability as far as an adoption fee. So when I first started working here, you would look back and you'd say, okay, the adoption fee might have been around $35. And at this point, it's, you know, many of them are jumping up, you know, to 100 to, and then some of the ones that are coming out, they're transporting them in from the south, they're asking anywhere from like $350 to $500 and that type of stuff. So the program and what is happening around the state has vastly changed. We did work a lot with PetSmart, but they have changed a lot with their staff and their programs and their policies. So our relationship with them has diminished some just because, well, how should I say this? I'm not 100% comfortable with the change in staff. I usually am not. I know that, like with our animal control road staff and our animal shelter staff, there is a lot of stability because we have a couple of main personnel that have been there for quite a while. So I find that there's a stability there. But when you change staff and policy and program with a great deal of frequency, it becomes no one knows what the other person's doing. And so we've kind of pulled back on that avenue. So we're doing more in-house and at the shelter than we were doing up at PetSmart. So things have definitely changed. We have, the animals are definitely staying longer. We are seeing some hard luck cases, which we see basically every year, but I'm seeing a little bit more where we can't help them. You know, people are becoming less apt to potentially go to the veterinarian for euthanasia, so an animal might come our way instead because they were thinking something else might do it. So even though our euthanasia rate is still very low, and we work on that, I do believe in euthanasia because that's the humane thing to do. And any municipal shelter that doesn't participate in euthanasia, I don't think is doing their job properly. So yeah, we do have some that come on in, seniors, cars do more damage, that type of stuff. So basically what I am seeing is overall the annual animal population has decreased some, but the length of stay has increased because of the policy and law changes within the state.
You still have the truck that comes around with the veterinarian
Yep.
that does the...
Yep. So they only deal with cats. So the neutering of the cats is usually around $75, which includes the distemper, the rabies, and the spay and the neutering. The dogs, every once in a while, because we have a really good working relationship with that particular veterinarian, if we have a dog, which we have one now, she had an umbilical hernia, plus she needed to be spayed. But the spay-neuter clinic in Warwick would not fix the hernia. So they would spay her, but then I'd have to go to another veterinarian to have the hernia repaired. But I was able to speak to the veterinarian who predominantly deals with the feline population. He did everything, which was Very beneficial to her because she didn't have to go to under anesthesia twice. Plus, it was beneficial to the program because there wasn't 2 surgeries, and it decreased the expenditure invested in her to prepare her for adoption. What we're also seeing a lot of, just as another note, Lyme and anaplasmosis. And it's amazing on how expensive, especially doxycycline is, even though we have become involved in a program that allows us to almost obtain the antibiotics at wholesale. So instead of what it would normally cost, it would cost to treat 1 animal. Basically, it's costing for us to treat 2. So it's costing us 50% of the cost. But a lot of Lyme and anaplasmosis exists in the canine population in our area.
And would you talk about the quarantine requirements for the contact with the potential rabid wildlife?
We definitely have rabies-positive animals in South Kingstown, Narragansett, in the state of Rhode Island. Exposure, it's a little bit complicated, but if an animal's not vaccinated and they come in contact with a rabies-positive animal that is tested and positive for rabies, and they're not vaccinated, that's a 6-month quarantine. So they get to hang out with me for 6 months. That is kind of scary because we could be exposed to a rabies-positive animal if that animal contacted rabies from the rabies-positive animal. You also have wounds of unknown origin, and you're not sure where they came from. So it becomes sometimes a strict confinement. And then there's also where you have an injury, like from a dog to a person, their vaccinations may have lapsed. That dog or cat would come to us and stay with us for 10 days. Then they would have to get their rabies vaccination and then they can go back home. But everything is different as far as what determines, whether it's going to be a 6-month quarantine, whether it's going to be a strict confinement at home, whether it's going to be the 10-day quarantine, all that type of stuff.
One of the problems happens is when somebody stays with us for 6 months, the fees associated with that animal leaving the facility, in some cases, more expensive than what the person is willing to pay to bring the animal back. So it becomes very difficult. And the reason I wanted to bring it up, just to understand, there's an awful lot of state rule, state regulation that people think of the animal shelter and figure, well, my dog got loose, they bring him in there, I'll pay the $5 fine or whatever it is, and I'm all set. There's a lot more in terms of the medical responsibilities, care and proper maintenance of those animals while they're in our possession. Certainly, we do an excellent job as far as the number of dogs that are returned to owners, but it's the dogs and cats that aren't returned to their owners that really take a lot of the expenses associated with operating the facility.
And he is correct about the expenditures. Even though our quarantine fee per day is minimal, probably 1/3 of what it would cost to have a boarding kennel. But you do have people who feel that, why should I have to pay? The one thing is, they could elect to euthanize their animal. They could elect to have that animal euthanized and disposed of and be done with it. So they can elect to euthanize or they can elect to quarantine.
Even if it's not sick, they could elect to, because you're quarantining because you think it's possible that the animal has rabies.
We have had...
How many of them have you had to keep for 6 months?
Probably about 6 in the last 2 years. So, I've learned a couple things. We had a dog that came on in, wonderful dog, but German Shepherds are very high-strung. And so you have to watch their personality, you have to watch for signs of depression, you have to watch everything about them and how it plays on the way they display themselves, because animals will talk to you through their body language. if they are acting all lethargic, is that a neurological sign or is that depression? How do we play this out? We have our hands. Your hands may look fine to you, but more than likely you have little nicks in your fingers, especially with this weather, hangnails and whatnot. If you're in there with that animal, you have to be careful with any saliva, anything that, any potential bodily fluids going into any cracks. So you have to really be tuned in to what that animal is telling you without verbal communication. So we had a German Shepherd who did, he stepped between his family and a rabid raccoon that came out. And he protected the dad and the children on the swing set. His vaccination had lapsed, and it wasn't even that long. It was, I think, about 2 weeks. And so here he was protecting his family. He was in his own yard, but he ended up with a laceration across his nose. And it was a skunk, because that dog stank. He got sprayed something fierce. It was awful. And the dog did okay, but then 2 to 3 weeks down the line, the dog, you could see the depression starting to set in, and he was getting mopier and mopier. And I definitely had to figure out how to kind of bring him out of that funk and be able to figure out, was he feeling awful? Was he feeling sick? Or was he just depressed? And as time went on, I was rabies vaccinated at that time, and I know that the owners were rabies vaccinated because the entire family went through the rabies vaccination series after he was exposed, so that once their vaccinations were 30 days old, they could visit with him because they were protected. So between the family and I, we were able to work with the dog in an enclosed environment, and that dog made it through the quarantine without any issues. I did have someone who was going to euthanize their dog right off the bat because they were worried that the stress would be too much for the dog, and I did convince them not to. And then I was called by the state, and the state told me to have the dog receive a booster's vaccination and have the dog go home.
All I wanted to do is to point out that this woman loves her animals.
She does.
I can see
Protects
that.
them and does a wonderful job for us at the facility. As I said earlier, we've made some energy changes as far as the HVAC system that's there. Hopefully it's going to, one of the things I think that Chief and I didn't realize when we were putting that building addition together was how important the HVAC system was as far as filtering out the dog dander and that type of thing. And there's been a lot of modifications that have been necessary on the facility. But I think we finally got it at a point where it should be working the way it will. That'll be to the benefit of both the staff that's there and for the animal population that's there. One other thing for council's purposes, we do not deal with any wildlife. Any wildlife goes through natural resources through DEM. So whether it's injured on the street or whether it's problems with either with turkeys or deer, that has to go through DEM. We'll make the referrals to DEM, but we only deal with domesticated animals as far as the program is concerned.
And we have a big generator behind the building now.
We have a large generator because we agreed that we would have the animal shelter serve as a regional emergency shelter. The quid pro quo was if we did that, they would give us the generator so we would make sure we had the power. So we signed a long-term contract with DEM to provide that service. Seeing that our building addition is the result of Anne Marie taking in a cat during a hurricane, and then the owner being so appreciative that she donated her house to the animal shelter at the time of her passing.
That's good.
The value of that bequeath is what paid for 90% of the addition that was built on that facility. So we thought serving as a regional, particularly for emergency purposes, made a lot of sense.
I think so. Thank you.
I don't have a question, I just have a suggestion. I am, now that my kids are out of the house, the happy recipient of 3 animals from your shelter. However, you have a program that I think is can be, it's not underutilized, it could be more substantially utilized with recyclables and people, because I know you accept cans and things of that nature there, and that helps. I don't know how much it helps you.
About
but I know
$1,000 a year.
It helps to provide, because I know my husband and I bring, cans and things that are recyclable there, because we have one of the trash people that doesn't really do recyclables, so. But I'd love to see, if you guys are on Facebook, like to just put that out there, because I don't think a lot of people know that.
No, I've been working on that. One thing is hard is transporting the crushed cans to and getting them the funds for the crushed cans. That's the hardest part that we run into. But yeah, we keep working on, we keep plugging away at that.
I just think that's awesome. I don't want to
It's
make
easier
it
to
cumbersome.
get an aluminum can out of a person.
Cumbersome for you.
Yep.
But if you have those donations and that's helping to provide,
Yep.
the food, I understand the other part of it where I really wasn't thinking about that side getting.
No, and we'll probably, right now, with the snow and stuff like that, I can't say that people like even driving over there and dumping their cans, but we'll probably increase the media on that aspect, too.
Yeah, that would be great. I know we do it, and
Yep.
my husband feels proud every time he can go over there. And
It is. And if we do run into a pickle, then we have that little reserve fund that's helpful to us, that we can help somebody.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you.
The Harbor Patrol program, we're not looking at any changes from what the current year. We're looking at really two components to the program. One is the dealing with the actual season. During the 15-week summer season, we attempt to provide 7 days a week with a boat on as a means of really just checking the safety. It's not the police function per se. If we had problems on the water, we could put police officers in the police boat for that purpose. But the Harbor Patrol program really is a boating education program and boating safety program. And we've been very fortunate, all kidding aside, to have had Barry run the program for the years that he has. Unfortunately, he thinks he's leading, and we told him he can't. He also runs the mooring program for the town. We provide a stipend, I think it's $2,500 to manage the field. And he also oversees the boat operations. We also have a second boat that sometimes, if we've got the resources, will be on the narrow river as well. We work in conjunction with the Narragansett. One of the things I'm trying to determine, and Chief is working on for me, is to determine if Barry does look at whether we can develop a joint program with Narragansett rather than run parallel programs. It just makes no sense if we're on the same water body. We've always been the regional partner that operates facilities. We're attempting to see if Narragansett would be willing to act as the managing partner with that program. If it's not successful, we will be doing recruitment for a person that would serve as our harbor master. We've had students from the university that have worked on the boat for the safety after they've gone through the training program. I think it's also important to note that the harbor program that was established in Rhode Island, Barry wrote it and has taught it over the years. So we've been fortunate not only as far as the certification program that he brought to us, but also the fact that he's done a training and of course with those boats. So it's been a win-win for us. I'm certainly going to miss him. If he really does pull the plug, which I'm so hoping he's not going to, but at the same time, I understand when you get as old as Barry, you need to have some time off. What do you have to say, Barry?
42 years of no weekends off.
Oh.
That's all. Well, I told the chief earlier, he's probably stuck with me for another year.
That's good news for us.
Um,
Explain more about what you do during the 15 weeks with the board attendance.
For about the last 10 years, we've been working with the University of Rhode Island and their internship program. Usually recruit one or two Marine Affairs, or I forget what they're called now, something else, they changed their names, but Marine Affairs students up there and try to expose them to the actual boating safety enforcement side of the program. In doing that, we hire 2 or 3 people, part-time basis for the season, give them the basic training. It's a 20 hours of classroom and then 20 hours of practical hands-on operation of the boat. They don't have to be able to operate a boat when they start with us. We teach them the way we want them to do it. And as Steve said, our focus is boating education and boating safety. It's a little tough. We have to do some enforcement, and they're exposed to all the laws and all the regulations. We do random checks of recreational vessels out there to make sure they have the right equipment, help whoever is out there stranded or is in distress or whatever. And it's basically what I tell the guys. It's probably 85% of the people out there have no idea what they're doing. So we're out there just to make sure they can have a good time on the weekend without hurting anybody else or getting hurt themselves. And that's our focus. We've always worked with DEM. We've worked with the surrounding communities, closely with Narragansett. Narragansett's harbor master now is a retired chief from the Coast Guard. Have a good working relationship with the Coast Guard at Point Judith Station. As everyone should know, there's a blessing of the fleet every summer. That's when we all get together down there. We usually put 2 boats in down there, along with Narragansett and DEM, and 3 or 4 of the Coast Guards, things like that. We also provide coverage for functions at the town beach. There's a mini triathlon that they do every year that we go out first thing in the morning and do coverage on the water side for that. So it's a focus of boating safety, boating enforcement, and just overall education for everyone out there.
And the other thing, Barrett, bring us up to date on the software that we're talking about and the ordinance changes dealing with the
Okay. I believe we're going to discuss that tomorrow night at the waterfront meeting. There's the town clerk's department has historically handled the actual licensing part of the moorings, taking the money in so it's controlled, issuing the licenses, and all of that, and that's always been done on the old computer system. Since the town has moved into a off-the-shelf computer system and upgraded all of their systems, we weren't able to maintain the status that we had before, and we've moved forward to buying the town clerk has purchased a web-based mooring system. And the company has been around probably about 10 years. It was started by a couple of guys. They approached the Rhode Island Harbor Masters Association when they first started. And so a lot of the harbor masters throughout the state have had a chance to look at it. Jamestown, Portsmouth, there's several towns on the bay that actually use the system. It's a fantastic system. Again, there's a learning curve for myself and the clerks in the clerk department to actually utilize it, but we should have it up and running for the next coming season because our actual licensing season starts June 1st. So everything's... What? Yeah.
It's a cloud-based system, and eventually it's going to allow registration that will be, online rather than having to be at the office itself, as well as food payments. It also is going to provide us an opportunity to be able to have a waiting list and also potentially to have a cost beyond that waiting list. So
Barry, how many moorings do we have?
Right now, I believe it's like 153 or 54, somewhere in that area.
And have you seen that bill that was proposed to attach
I
a
did,
state
yes,
charge
yes.
on all the moorings? What do you think of that?
I've done some research in preparation for the Waterfront Commission, and the majority, well, I can't say the majority, Newport, Middletown, a couple of the other major players on the bay. I know Newport had a resolution to go before their council last night, or tonight, but they canceled the meeting, postponed it till next week to go against it. Middletown had sent out, Middletown, I believe it was, actually took a motion against it, and I think East Providence sent out a blast to everybody in Richmond. If you go online, there's 3 or 4 of them that you can see that everyone seems to think it's a negative move, and in everything that I've read, the head of DEM said they're not in favor of it all either.
And would you like a resolution from us?
I'll let the Waterfront Committee address that issue and let it come to you that way. There's a Waterfront Committee meeting. There's a Waterfront Committee meeting tomorrow night.
Okay.
And it's going to go before them, and then they'll make a recommendation to you
Good.
folks. I'm
Very
sure
good.
that's what it will be, but that's
Yeah.
that's going to be their decision. So
No, it seems like a good idea. Let's get on before it goes too far.
most all of the issues go against what's already in place that was established by the state. The state wanted to pass the operation and management of the moorings to the local communities because they thought it was going to be way too cumbersome. And this was just an attempt to skim off the top, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's right.
If there's no more questions.
Any other questions? No? Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Next, we go on to the Communications Department. I mentioned to you at a previous meeting that Brian Ballou, who had run this department for the last 15 years, 12 years for us, has taken leave of the job. At this point, we are looking at restructuring of some of the department itself. I've had Mike DeMello, who prior to coming to us as a EMS director, serves as a role as a deputy fire marshal, and has assisted Lance Whaley in terms of the operation of the department. We are going to see some changes. We are working on a standard operating procedure with the Union Fire District and the Kingston Fire District to assist the Communications Division in the management of alarms during nighttime hours when we're not staffed. At this point, you can see there's a $16,000 line item in the communications budget for overtime, and you can see we've spent over $18,000 this year. What we're working out with the fire districts is to have their deputy chiefs, and the deputy chief attends each and every alarm, to be able to silence the alarm and reset the alarm after training through the communications division, rather than us having to call out a 3-hour call out each and every time there's an alarm. So this should save us a couple of $1,000 that's there, and down $7,000 from what we had budgeted for the current year. The standard operating procedure with the department, 2 departments, will also provide us with joint review, will give them the opportunity to joint review our request on plans and specification reviews for safety systems for any residential structures going for use for commercial or industrial development. Right now, communications department has to review the plans independently of the fire department. It means that people are going to different offices, and it's taking longer time than it needs to. With the operating agreement that we will be hopefully finishing within the week, it will provide us with an opportunity to have the district deputy fire marshals assist us in the communications component review, so that it will be really the 2 of us doing the review together rather than apart. instead of us having to go to the public services building, go to the fire department, we'll try to centralize things in a better location to provide greater efficiency. Michael's drafted the SOP. He and I met with the chiefs from the two fire districts last week, and I think we've got things about cleaned up on that. The other thing that we have done since Brian's departure is to do a current status report in terms of the conditions of the different box circuits that are managed through the department and the street boxes. What we're finding is that the street box system has really not been used in many years. And in fact, many of those units are not in proper repair at this point. What I've directed to be done is that any box that is not functioning to be tagged as non-functional, so that if somebody thinks that they're pulling a box alarm, they will be aware that they need to call 911. I will be preparing a report with the department as to what the future should be with street boxes. We don't see the necessity for maintaining, developing a replacement of the street box system if in fact we have not had one fire called in or an emergency called in through that box system in several years. I asked for a 5-year check. I think, can you completely review on that one?
Yeah, it's five boxes in 5 years, 3 malicious pulls, meaning kids walking down the street decided to pull it. One got ran over and another one went off for no apparent reason.
So no more emergency related. So we've got to make some decisions on that, and we've got to also take a look at the box circuits. Some of the box circuits are going back 40 and 45 years as far as the wire. The splicing that's occurred over the years jeopardizes the integrity of those circuits. So we're going to be doing a review on that and what steps should be taken. Many towns have left the hot wire systems and going to radio box systems. Our dispatch center does provide a capability to go to radio box. The cost for the businesses to replace with radio boxes is something that we've got to look at in terms of what type of costs are there. But what we're seeing is that the technology is there for self-testing. The technology is there for greater efficiency in terms of managing systems, being able to articulate where the smoke or the fire is within the building, something that can't be done through the existing technology which we use. So it's a system that we need to take a look at, and what I'm trying to do is to develop a much more closer relationship for how the public safety function with the communications division really fits within the fire function, and for us to try to get those two working closer together. But there'll be more to come on communications division as we go forward. The deputy superintendent is talking with the school to be certified as a deputy fire marshal. He will be out of school by the middle of this month. So we've seen a lot of changes since meeting in January with Brian's departure. Certainly by no means am I suggesting that there was a problem with his operation, but rather it's a case that it's a time for us to be able to take a fresh look at what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and whether or not there's better ways to conduct business. So the budget is down about $1,200, but the real reduction there is in the personnel line item because the longevity as well as the step salary associated with the director's position. will be more emphasized rather than exceeded. Mike, anything that you want to bring forward, communications?
No, just the same thing. We're just kind of looking at everything now, get a fresh perspective, take a look at different technologies that are available and how we can make it all work better for public safety and better for economics.
We may look at consulting dollars in the future capital improvement program to be able to bring somebody in and take over that because coverage is better, the question would be, some communities will take a 5-year phase-in, so the person that what systems get full appreciation of that system as well as need to replace. But we have to have a better understanding on whether there's a cost efficiency involved with that, or whether we should be looking at restringing cable. So those are the things we'll be looking at with that over the next several months. And as I say, I think that we may end up in a situation where we want to bring in a third-party consultant to evaluate each of the different options that we have. But before we look at any outside services, we need to do an in-house review of what actually exists in the inventory and the condition of that inventory. If there's no questions, we can move on. The next account is the EMS, so I'll leave Michael with the we're looking at about $25,000 increase in the program cost for the EMS services. For those that aren't aware, we operate 2 vehicles that are transport vehicles. One is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The second operates on a 12-hour schedule from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. and operates out of Route 1 at the Public Services Building. We now have a complement of 12 paramedics and 4 shift supervisors, as well as a couple of EMTs. We also work with about 15 EMTs that provide assistance in terms of the staffing requirements. Staffing right now requires 2 individuals on each of the transport vehicles, and we operate with a first responder. The first responder vehicle is a small type vehicle that carries the necessary equipment for emergency response. It provides one individual to arrive on scene first, be able to assess the situation, and be able to provide immediate assistance if, in fact, the transport ambulance and the 2 paramedics are tied up on another site. So we operate with a shift supervisor that operates out of that single vehicle, and we operate with the 2 transport vehicles, each with double paramedics. Many municipalities operate at a EMTC level or cardiac care level. We operate as much as possible at paramedic level. And have sophisticated staff, and also have the need for sophisticated equipment. As you saw in the capital improvement program, there's substantive dollars being spent on the people carrying what's necessary. I hope we'll get some of the injuries that are prevalent in this industry. Mike, you want to talk about the department?
Sure. So we continue to grow a little bit each year as far as call volume. There's a change nationally on the type of calls that we're responding to, a little bit more of non-transport type emergencies or well-being checks or whatever you have here. So that's probably the biggest change that you've seen now is people will call 911 for everything. And we'll go there and assess the situation, and sometimes it necessitates a transport, and sometimes it just necessitates some in-home care type thing. So that's probably the biggest change that we're doing now. Our numbers have stayed pretty steady as far as mutual aid. Some years more than others will require mutual aid or give mutual aid. And really, there is no rhyme or reason, as I usually say, of when we're going to be busy and when we're not going to be busy. So the men and women, they do a great job out there as best they can. Again, the supervisor is primarily the one that's in the first responder vehicle, as it's called, and that truck pretty much has everything on it except the stretcher. So all the medications, the defibrillator, all that stuff is there. And it works well for us in our demographics and just the community be able to split off and meet a mutual aid rescue and still be able to provide the same level of care as any other truck would when it got there. So, so far, so good. But it's medicine, and technology and medicine does not last long. So we're just continually evaluating and trying to make sure we have the best equipment to do what we can.
Mike, on the runs that you make that are non-transport, and you're doing in-home care, you still charge the insurance companies for that?
Most of the insurance companies do not pay for that. Whether it's somebody calls and then they feel better when we get there, so they don't want to go anymore, that's common. By all means, please call. I'd rather us go than you wait too long. And sometimes it's an education thing for the patient. So we go there and help them out. So that's one of those things that aren't necessarily reimbursed. And nationally, that's one of the concerns as they look at some type of EMS filling a role of kind of an in-home type care. And that's one of the stumbling blocks with it, is there really is no mechanism for reimbursement. So before any state or most places go down that path, that kind of needs to be addressed. But it just comes with the territory.
One of the other things I wanted to mention to you, too, is that in addition to running the EMS services for us, as well as coordinating on communications, Michael is also responsible for the hurricane or emergency services for the shelter. So he provides a great deal of backup for the chief and I in terms of being able to, us to be able to lead him to the shelter and for him to be able to coordinate with Narragansett team to be able to get the police and fire as to who's going to be there, because we have to have one of each representatives for the entire time. We have to have Red Cross involvement. We have to have that coordination. So we're doing that as well, and that also goes through the EMS director's office. So there's a number of different tactics required to work within the public safety function. Obviously, everything goes through chief, but there's a number of those specialty areas that we have to provide direct assignment.
I have a question. I asked this question, I think, at the last time you were here, but it was just specifically related to numbers of people that you serviced. If, for example, you had to respond, I'll use Charlestown, for example, because somebody was not available there in Charlestown, or Charlestown had to respond to an emergency situation in South Kingstown, is there any reciprocal reimbursement between the towns?
Generally, that's left up to the insurance now. So if they come here, they will basically bill the patient's insurer, and if we go there, we will do the same thing. It's really a legality issue as far as either you bill or you don't. So if you bill, you can't charge another fee on top of it. So it's kind of illegal, so we've shied away from that.
Okay. I just didn't know how that
Yeah,
worked.
yeah,
Because I know
it's
sometimes down, where I live in the way southern end of town, a lot of times I know Charlestown, they're the first responders because they're the closest.
Yeah, what we do work with the neighboring communities is whether or not, if there is any copay that to the resident, is sometimes they'll call and they'll say, hey, we went, and they will not pursue the copay. So that's about the best we can do as far as that goes. But I would say the majority of the time that the insurance company picks up most of it.
Okay.
The other thing, we take in about between $600,000 and $650,000 a year in dollars that are of value to this program. For a budgetary, I think we budget $575,000. So $575,000 of the total cost of this program is coming through the reimbursements that we get through Medicare or through the Blue Cross or whatever plans that are out there. We set up a program several years ago, which is a self-insurance program, where all of the billing is done. Anything that's not paid for through the third-party insurance or through the federal government should be a copay that would be for the resident. We waive that fee. So we may have billing of $900,000, but the billing of the $900,000, $300,000 of that is what would be directly the responsibility of the people who would use the services in excess of what their insurance or Medicare would be paying. That's forgiven. And then we only take the money in that comes in, that's actual cash that comes in from either Medicare or through the different insurance companies. That, you'll see that's in your audit document, and you'll see the values associated with that. So we're collecting, as I said, in the $550,000, $600,000 range. We use the placeholder of 575 this year between the general fund. Whatever we don't take into the general fund stays in fund balance for EMS fees. So that we sort of build up a lot of money there. What we then do is we would say to you, let's take some of the money out of that fund to be able to do specific improvements. So they would be capital in nature. In fact, I think we were looking at some of that money some of that money was being used in the building adjustments that we were making at the public services building to be able to properly fit the full-size ambulances into the garages that had originally been built for police cars when that was being used as a police station. So there is a good return on investment, not like the police department, but where you got a $3 million bill and you're getting $300,000. Here you got $1 million bill and you're getting $575,000. I'm just glad you're sitting there. So think of it also. I mean, that's another one of your revenues that comes in as third-party sources.
I think it's just, and that's important to remember, since I've been here annually, I've updated the fee schedule, and it just to explain that. So you'll see the EMS fee schedules that we charge. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's what we're going to get back for the reimbursement. So Medicaid, Medicare says, I'm paying you this amount, and that's all you're going to get. But the reason why we need to do those fees at those levels is if I were to charge you and you were going to pay privately, that's the type of fee that you would pay, and that comes into place when there's auto insurers or some of these other third-party insurance type policies that are out there where we may actually be able to recoup some of that at the fees that are listed in the ordinance. So that's why we set the fees at that rate, but I just want you to be aware that that's not exactly what we're going to get all the time.
Similar to what you saw with each of your applications that were before you tonight with the uncompensated cost reimbursements, what they're showing you is what full fee costs would be, and they're showing you what they actually received in from the insurers, and the difference between that, they're saying is uncompensated costs. Obviously, they're really not uncompensated costs if, in fact, they're able to survive with the fees that they're getting from the insurance companies or from the federal government. But they are looking at what the full fee is. That's what we do with the fee structure that you set. We tell them this is how much we expect to get on a cardiac run. We'll say it's $900. They'll say we're giving you $450, and that's based on what everybody would be getting across the state. Any questions? If not, I would suggest you go to page 1040, which is municipal insurance, and we're in the home stretch. Thanks for coming in, Jackie.
Thanks,
As far as
Chief.
the municipal insurance.
Thank you.
Jackie.
We're looking at, I wanted to make sure council was aware, we buy $1 million policy with $4 million in excess on that, so that public official liability that you have is a $5 million coverage in terms of any claim that comes against the municipality. As I said when we were doing the budget message, there's been reallocations on some of our insurances and workers' comp, so you're seeing the general fund accepting a greater share based on what the proportionate cost should be, based on where the liabilities are. So the municipal insurance, we're looking at about a $31,000 increase. Unemployment comp, we're down, looking at about a $10,000 budget. On average, we've been spending about $11,000. This year, we've only spent $650 so far. So it's going to be dependent on how many people, leave us and under what terms that they're leaving us, and then how long between the time that they leave us and they get another job. The workers' compensation, same situation. Workers' comp is becoming more expensive all around. The medical reimbursement costs associated with workers' comp, as well as the payments while people are out of work, being paid their wages, and the length of time that people are out of work is becoming longer and longer. So we're seeing increased costs associated with that. With the trust, we're doing as much as we can in terms of supervision of that. If we think somebody's out for an extended period of time, we are using private investigators to determine whether those people are working or whether they truly are. We're using IMEs as far as medical evaluation to determine likelihood of return to work or likelihood to receive be able to do cleaning duty. We're also working with the duty policy and some of our departments to bring people back sooner rather than later, if in fact they can be productive as far as department needs are concerned. But I'm more concerned with the comp than I am the municipal insurance in terms of how we can do a better job in terms of cost control there. But we've got a couple of cases that are long-term and have major medical and direct pay requirements that have really boosted what our annual cost would be there on the general fund side. Moving on, fund contingency, we have maintained that at a $65,000 level each year. If you went based on accounting best practices, it should be in the $100,000 range. I'm not seeing that there's a necessity for that. We've got enough flexibility in our operating departments that we can stay at the $65,000 range. Town retirement, obviously we've moved that into the operating departments. On healthcare, we talked about this on the first night. The OPEB cost for future service value is $350,000 on the annual required contribution, and we also have a $75,000 line item there that if we need it for health care, we can use it. If not, it'll go into the OPEB line item and be transferred at the end of the year to increase our funded level within the OPEB program. We've dealt with wastewater, we've dealt with seniors. The school we're going to deal with next Wednesday night. The last two items that we have after is the debt service and the municipal and school, and that's presented to you starting on page N48. There's really not much to say there. These are the required costs. What we are doing, though, is to show you what each of the different bonds are and what the cost of those bonds are, and then where the third-party revenues come in. So what the net property tax need is on the schools is going down from the 946 down to the 893. And on the town debt, we're looking at the reduction from 707 down to 486. So those are good cost savings to us in terms of the bottom line of the budget and tax effort requirements. That completes everything that we've done in the general fund. As far as the council is concerned, what would be helpful for, I think, the council is for each of the council members with adjustments or suggested revisions that you'd like to make in the budget, that you prepare some kind of vignette, give it to me, I'll do it possibly in general, so when we meet for the council to talk about what revisions that you'd like to make in the budget, whatever they may be. I'll have an inventory of items for you in advance of you sitting down, so you know how to do it all. There's no need for you to assign who's asking the question on suggestions. If you tell me that you want to question something in the police department on motor vehicles, I can put that on the list. Certainly, we'll be knowing I can know you're looking at as far as that. If there's money that you want to change as far as the agencies that you talked about, give me the agency name and the increase request that you suggested. Then I can give all five of you a list of that, so when we sit down, you can make some final decisions on what you want to do, because you're going to need to meet with the school committee on Wednesday, and then we're looking at the need to adopt the preliminary budget at 5 o'clock on the following Monday after this. So at Monday, we would meet at 5 and go through whatever changes you want. I crunch the numbers for you, and then you'll be able to adopt the program at that point. The reason that it's so early is that once you adopt a preliminary budget, we then have to put the full disclosure statements together for the Department of Administration, because we can't run the ads on your budget until the Department of Administration clears the ad as being appropriate. It's a standard form we have to use when we have to have the actual numbers in that preliminary budget. It normally is going to take us 10 days to get their approval. So if it takes us that long, and then we have to have the advertisements in place for the 2 public hearings that are in first week of April, it gets real tight as far as getting the notices out to the newspaper in time. So it's not us trying to rush you on the decision, it's rather the process that we have in place that the state is mandating, a certain amount of time for them to be able to review what we send out. Any questions? It would be great if we could think about what we want for a list, if possible, give that to me for Monday night, and then I can get it out to you on Thursday in advance on Monday, so that you'll know what everybody else is thinking. And it depends. If you want it, my person's name up, you can do it that way. If you want it just for me to put a list together, I can do it. Whichever way you feel most comfortable. But it would be helpful, rather than getting into that meeting and someone said, well, gee, let's talk about this. At least you'll know in advance, and you'll be able to look at it and really come up with a posture as to whether or not you think it's good, bad, or indifferent about what somebody suggests.
Thank you. Any comments from the council? And I don't think we have any members of the public here tonight, or anymore. So with that, we can adjourn.